What is up? How's everybody doing today? This is Phil, the Kaiju King from my collection room here in Greater Cincinnati, and I'm going to start doing some little fun matchup videos, Kaiju fantasy battle videos. This will be the first one, and I'll probably do some here and there throughout my channel as it goes forward. I thought it'd be something fun to do, and some what if fantasy Kaiju battles. I think it would be really cool and really fun to talk about who you think would win and why you think they would win and all that. And I think it's just going to be something interesting, fun to do to put on my channel. And let's meet our first contestant in our first Kaiju battle. And let's do that right now. All right, everybody, yes, the original King Kong. And here is my three favorite versions of King Kong, as many versions have been over the years. We have 1933, the original Kong, 1976, King Kong, and then, of course, 2017, legendary MonsterVerse King Kong from Kong Skull Island. These are my three favorite versions of Kong over the years, of all the versions of Kong. Probably my three favorite Kong films, ironically, too, and probably in this order: 33, 17, and 76. 76 and 17 are really close as far as number 2 goes. Pretty much they're about even, but 33, of course, will always be my favorite. It's my favorite movie, actually, ever. But this is my first contestant in my fantasy Kaiju battle series, and it is King Kong. And of course, Kong has a long lineage in the movie film history. Started in 1933, of course, with the original King Kong. And as we went along here, he's progressively gotten bigger along the way. In his very next film, 1962, Godzilla vs. King Kong, he had grown dramatically. They upscaled him quite a bit to take on Godzilla. And then, of course, the most recent version, 2017, he's just over 100 feet tall. Later in the year, of course, he's going to fight Godzilla, which he will be at least, I would say, 300. I would say he'd be a little over 300 feet tall in this movie coming up, I would think. And it should be really interesting to see what happens when the original King and the King of the Monsters knock heads come November. I can't wait for that. But Kong is one of my favorite Kaiju, of course, my favorite movie, of course. I like his attributes and his skills, and some of the skills he's had over the years are pretty funny and crazy. Of course, in 33, 76, and 2005, he did perish in those films, because that's how the story of Kong has went prevalently in the older films. But then you have some other films where he did not perish, he thrived, like Kong Skull Island, King Kong vs. Godzilla, he survives. King Kong Escapes from 1967, he survives and thrives. So there's tragedy and there's triumph in the King Kong movies, I would say, for sure. But definitely one of my favorite Kaiju, and an American Kaiju, and the reason I got into all this crazy Kaiju madness is King Kong. All right, let's meet King Kong's opponent for this fantasy Kaiju battle in this video. Let's meet his opponent right now. Yes, everybody, yes. Gamera, guardian of the universe, friend to all children. This is Kong's fantasy matchup opponent for this fantasy kaiju battle I'm doing, and I think it would be a very unique matchup. Of course, Gamera started off in 1965 by Daiei Film Company. Hope I'm getting that right, Daiei Film Company. And I think Gamera was a response to the popularity of Godzilla at the time. 1965, that was the mid-60s, that was the golden age of the Showa era in many people's eyes. And Gamera, I think, was a direct result of the popularity of Godzilla, and Daiei tried to capitalize on that by creating their own monster kaiju, which would be in Gamera. And down through the years, of course, Gamera started out as a kind of a bad guy, but then quickly transformed into a iconic good guy, and just like Godzilla did become superhero Godzilla, Gamera did some of that in some respects, and especially towards his friend and kinship with children. In some of the Gamera films, you see that very, very prevalent, how Gamera became friend to all children. And my favorite Gamera film probably is Gamera versus Barugon, I would say. I love that film. But the three Heisei Gamera films are very, very excellent. I love those films. They're very, very well done. Kudos to everyone that was involved in those three films. They are very, very highly top-notch. They are on par, and in some people's eyes, superior to the Heisei Godzilla movies. And I actually kind of prefer the Gamera films by just a tad over the Godzilla Heisei films. But Gamera, of course, like I said, friend to all children. He has some very significant abilities, and that would lend to him fighting a King Kong. And I think it would be a very interesting matchup, no doubt. Alright, we'll bring the Kongs back, and we'll have a face-off kind of, and I'll talk a little more about this matchup, what I think would happen. And let's do that right now. Alright, everybody, here they are. Kong versus Gamera. Kaiju fantasy battle. Who you got? As far as their comparisons, Gamera, of course, has the ability and the advantage of being able to fly, which would be a tremendous advantage for Gamera in this fight, I would think. Gamera's ability to fly, Gamera's ability to blow fire would also be a tremendous advantage, similar in that respect to Godzilla. Him being able to produce a combustible element such as fire, that would be a tremendous advantage, I would think, to Gamera, to just burn Kong and set him on fire rather easily. I would think that would really lend to Gamera's advantage, of course. And also Gamera's ability for endurance and just taking a beating. I mean, if you watch some of the older films, even all the Heisei films too, Gamera would take bludgeon beatings and be bloodied in every single movie, and have puncture wounds and severe cuts and stuff, and just bleeding everywhere. And it was just amazing how much punishment Gamera would take, but he would rise in the end and come back to defeat whatever kaiju he happened to be up against. Like I said earlier, for instance, Barugon in the 1966 film, Barugon ended up freezing Gamera and incapacitating him in that manner, and it was just, he had to basically thaw out before he could really do anything to come back and finally try to defeat Barugon. But just stuff like that. I mean, I've seen Gamera take beatings after beating after beating. 99, he got impaled, and his arm got cut off. It's just amazing how much punishment Gamera takes, and just he takes a licking and keeps on ticking. So Gamera definitely has some advantages with his flying and his ability to blow the fire, and it's just his overall endurance really lends to him in a battle against Kong. Now, of course, Kong, in my opinion, he has speed. I think he would have a speed and agility advantage on Gamera. He runs circles around him. I think he's more powerful and stronger than Gamera as far as just physical strength. And I think he's probably overall smarter animal, or smarter kaiju than Gamera. Because Kong wants to have almost human characteristics, and he has emotion. He emits emotion in his fights and battles that he's had over the years. And I feel like Kong would have a tremendous advantage over Gamera, except for with the flying aspect would be hard. But I could see Kong taking something, a big giant rock or something, and hurling it at Gamera and knocking him out of the sky and getting him on the ground. If Kong gets him on the ground and it becomes hand-to-hand close combat, I feel like Kong wins the fight for sure. Of course, we're talking here of upscaling Kong to be able to fight Gamera, because originally the original King Kong was like 20 to 25 feet tall, so obviously we're upscaling him to be able to battle a giant Gamera. But I'm just saying, like, overall, Kong gets him on the ground out of his flying mode and gets close quarters and uses his speed and agility on Gamera. I feel Kong could vanquish Gamera. But Gamera gets to flying, and say Gamera's flying and he dives in and hits Kong, manages to land a severe blow on Kong with this hard shell. I'm sure that could really damage Kong tremendously. And then, of course, his fire breath could be the curtain for Kong. If I was going to pick, I would pick Kong. I think his intelligence, his speed, and his power would overcome Gamera's abilities. And if he knocks Gamera out of the sky, like I said, if he takes something and manages to get him on the ground, I feel like Kong would overpower Gamera from there and ultimately could defeat Gamera. But I don't think it would be an easy battle in any stretch of the imagination. I feel like this would be a very tight, close matchup, and it wouldn't shock me if Gamera could down Kong, or vice versa. Like I said, I personally think Kong would do away with Gamera in this instance and in this particular battle. It would be a hard-fought battle, and like I said, if Gamera's in that fly mode and Kong manages to get him to the ground some way by hurling something and knocking him out of the sky, and then Kong gets him on the ground, I could see Kong taking a giant boulder and smashing his shell in and crushing his shell, and that would cause severe damage to Gamera. I mean, I think Kong just would use his intelligence, his environment, his speed, and his power to ultimately overcome Gamera. But that's my pick, Kong over Gamera by a slight margin in a Kaiju fantasy battle. What is your pick in this fight, everybody? I'd like to know. You can comment below, or let me know what you feel would happen if they fought. It would be definitely an interesting battle, I feel. And I'm going with Kong in this battle. I feel he could defeat Gamera. It would be a tough fight, though. I feel they would both come out permanently scarred, but I feel like if Kong gets him on the ground and prevents him from flying away, and uses his power and his wits and his agility and speed, I think Kong could prevail. Like I said, y'all can comment below and let me know what you think of a battle in this respect. And I will close out my video with a look at these guys here. I want to thank everyone for their time and attention tuning into my channel. If you liked the video, please give it a like or comment below, like I said. This is Phil, the Kaiju King, from my collection room here in Greater Cincinnati, and y'all have a very blessed day.